The Harmattan breeze swept through the royal courtyard of Owa Kingdom, carrying with it the mingled scents of roasted corn, fresh palm wine, and dried herbs. The sprawling palace, with its carved wooden doors and vibrant murals, stood as a testament to centuries of culture and tradition. Prince Akunwata, known as Aku, sat on the wide veranda, frowning into the distance as his younger brother, Uche, regaled their cousins with tales of his escapades in Lagos. Aku had always been the dutiful son, the golden boy who never stepped out of line. Yet, as he turned 30, the weight of his responsibilities had become suffocating. He was the heir apparent, but his heart rejected the throne as much as it rejected the idea of an arranged marriage to Adaobi. From inside the palace, he heard the steady hum of voices, his father's deep commanding tone, punctuated by murmurs of arguments, murmurs of agreements from the king's council. His mother's melodic voice occasionally floated through, bringing warmth to the otherwise formal discussions. It was a familiar scene, one that always seemed to revolve around plans for the kingdom's future. Moments later, a steward appeared at the veranda, bowing deeply. "Your Highness, His Majesty requires your presence in the audience chamber." Aku rose, adjusting his isiagu, his steps steady but his mind turning. As he entered the audience chamber, the room fell silent. The king's council, a group of dignified elders, adorned in flowing robes, turned to look at him with a mix of respect and expectation.
At the center of it all sat his father, King Akunwata, regaled in his attire of richly embroidered aqua eze, and his mother, Queen Ngozi, serene yet commanding in her coral beads and silk wrapper.
"Ah, Akunwata," the king said, his voice echoing through the room. "Come, my son." He gestured to an empty seat beside him. Aku bowed slightly and took his place, his demeanor calm, but his chest tightening. The king's chief advisor, an elder named Nze Agbasi, smiled broadly. "Your Highness, it is good you are here. We were just discussing how much the kingdom has progressed in recent years under His Majesty's reign. The people are thriving, and the council is united. It is a testament to the wisdom of our kingdom and the promise of the future under your leadership." The other elders nodded in agreement. Indeed, one of them added, "The people eagerly await the day you will take your place on the throne. You have shown strength and discipline. Akunwata, you are a true son of the kingdom." Aku offered a polite smile, the words washing over him like waves on a rock. He glanced at his father, who was watching him with a rare softness in his eyes. "You know why you're here," the king began, leaning forward slightly. "Akunwata, it is time you embrace your destiny, something you have always worked hard for and deserve." The queen placed a hand on the king's arm, her voice gently but firm. "My son, your father is right. You have done more for this family and this community than anyone could have asked of you. You will make a good king, and with you..." The elders voiced their agreement, their deep baritone filling the room. "It will be a day of great celebration," Nze Agbasi said. "Every member of the community dreams of it. It will bring honor to the royal family and unity to the kingdom." Aku nodded, his face set in a practiced smile, but inside his thoughts were a storm. The last thing he wanted was to disappoint them. He had spent his life striving to meet every expectation, yet the idea of stepping fully into this role, of becoming the king they all wanted, felt like a chain tightening around the soul. As the elders continued to speak of his virtues, their voices rising with pride, Aku's throat tightening. He sat stiffly. He knew the weight of tradition bore down on him as much as it bore down on his father.
Aku had always been a lover of the church, a value instilled in him by his grandmother, who taught him about God and took him to services from a young age. Despite his duties as a prince, he carried that faith with him. It was in the church that he met Irene, a beautiful, humble woman with a passion for God, a career, and family. Irene had recently moved back to the community after losing her father, choosing to stay close to her mother, who cherished the memories tied to their home. Though Irene had built a thriving career in the city, her hybrid work schedule allowed her to stay and support her mother while working. It was these things that attracted him to her.
The sun filtered through the glass windows of the church, casting colorful reflections on the tiled floor. Irene sat in the second row, feeling the weight of Aku's gaze even before she turned her head. His presence always felt larger than life, steady, commanding, and yet simple. She didn't need to look at him to know he was watching her. After the service ended, Irene lingered, trying to convince herself she wasn't waiting for Aku. But when he walked up to her, his hands casually tucked into his pockets, her resolve wavered. Aku, she greeted, keeping her voice steady even though her heart raced. Irene, he replied, his tone warm despite its quietness. He paused for a moment before saying, "I should be angry with you." "I know," Irene said softly, "and I am sorry. I just thought you wouldn't be interested." "Interested?" Aku raised an eyebrow. "Why would you think that?" Irene frowned. "I don't know. I just wasn't sure." Aku's lips curved into a small smile. "I came to visit you when you lost your father. Why wouldn't I want to come to your Christmas party?" Irene looked at him, feeling her defenses crumble. His gaze seemed to pierce through her, making her forget the walls she had carefully built around her heart. "I am sorry," she said at last. "I don't have an excuse." Aku's expression softened. "We are going to talk about this." Irene nodded, not because she agreed, but because she needed to escape. His presence overwhelmed her, and she feared that if she stayed, she might do something reckless, like reach out to touch him just to see if he was real. His voice, his scent, the way he looked at her, it all stirred something inside her that she couldn't ignore. "How are you today?" Aku asked, breaking the silence. "Fine, thanks," Irene replied quickly, trying to regain control. "I'll be going now," she added, hurriedly. Aku nodded, but didn't move, watching her with an intensity that made her heart flutter. Irene turned away and left, needing space to collect herself before she made a mistake she couldn't take back. Aku watched her as she walked through the car park, got in her car and drove off. He sighed deeply. They couldn't keep doing this. Locking eyes, skipping heartbeats, pretending nothing was happening between them. Aku leaned against the church outer wall, letting the cool breeze brush over his face. He knew he was wrong. Irene wasn't someone he should be drawn to, especially with his engagement looming closer. But there was something about her he couldn't resist, something that pulled him in despite every logical reason to stay away. He was the crown prince after all. That came with expectations, duties he couldn't run from, even if he wanted to. To the world, he was the perfect heir, the golden boy who carried the hopes of his family and his people. Even his fiancée, Adaobi, thought so. Yet, in his heart, Aku harbored a secret. He didn't want the throne. His dreams lay far from the palace walls, in a career he had spent years quietly pursuing. Still, he kept up the facade, knowing how much his father and the community needed him to play his part. Adaobi was part of that facade. She was everything a future queen should be: beautiful, kind, poised. She had been groomed for queenship, and Aku knew she deserved someone who would cherish her for who she was, not for what she represented. But he wasn't that person. Irene drove out of the church park, gripping the steering wheel tightly. Her heart was racing, but not just because of Aku. Being in his presence stirred memories she had worked hard to bury.
Years ago, she had been accused of breaking up the relationship between two acquaintances. It had been a lie, but the whispers and accusations had been relentless. She had been branded a cheat and a thief, and though she had done nothing wrong, the experience had shaken her deeply. Now with Aku, she felt herself standing on dangerous ground again. This time, there were real feelings involved, feelings she couldn't deny but also couldn't act on. Aku was engaged. She wouldn't be the woman people pointed at and whispered about. Not again. Her mother, Miss Onyekachi, was chopping yams. When Irene walked into the kitchen, Miss Onyekachi looked at her daughter's face and she raised a brow. "You look like you have seen a ghost," she teased. "I'm fine, Mama," Irene replied, though her voice betrayed her. Miss Onyekachi paused. "Is this about that young man?" Irene froze. "What young man?" "The one whose name you think I don't know," her mother said, a knowing smile playing on her lips. Irene's mouth opened, but no words came out. Could it be that her mother understood what she couldn't admit? The thought left her both shocked and comforted. The silence hung pink in the air, as though the room itself was holding its breath. Irene, clutching the edge of the kitchen counter, tried to steady her racing thoughts. Her mother, Miss Onyekachi, suddenly broke the tension with a burst of laughter, rich and warm, echoing the tile floor walls. Ah, Irene, why are you acting like you saw a ghost?" Her mother teased, wiping her hands on her apron. "But you know I would really like to meet this young man. Oh. Who is he? Tell me now." Irene blinked rapidly, her heart stumbling back into a regular rhythm. She forced a small nervous smile. "If there's anyone, Mama," she said, trying to sound casual, though the relief in her tone betrayed her. Miss Onyekachi gave her daughter a long appraising look, but her expression remained light. Her voice teasing, "You this girl, you can keep secrets, Sha. But don't think you will hide him from me forever. I will find out eventually. Mothers always do." Irene laughed faintly, more out of the nerves than amusement, But as her mother returned to chopping yams, humming a hymn under her breath, Irene let out a quiet sigh. So she doesn't know, thank God. Still, her mind churned. Does she suspect? Could she have guessed it's Aku? The thought sent a fresh wave of anxiety coursing through her. If her mother knew about Aku and was about his engagement, her reaction would be far from this playful banter. Her mother's laughter was genuine now, a lightness Irene hadn't seen in her since her father's passing. That alone made Irene's stomach twist with guilt. After all, she knew how much her mother relied on her, leaned on her strength to fill the gap left by her father. The last thing Irene wanted to add more weight to her mother already burdened heart. But Aku, it complicated everything. Irene tried to banish his face from her thoughts. The way his voice had softened when he spoke her name, the way his eyes seemed to pass every defense she had built, she couldn't deny the pull she felt toward him. But how could she even entertain such feeling? He was the crown prince and was still. He belonged to someone else. Ha! Irene! Her mother suddenly, pulling her out of her thought. Don't forget to soak the beans for tomorrow. You know we are making moi for church meeting. Yes, Mama, Irene replied. Glad for the distraction, she moved to the sink, grabbing the bowl of beans and pouring water over them. As her hands worked, her thoughts lingered on the earlier exchange. Mama doesn't know, she reassured herself.